Westworld's downfall is the worst in tvshows history, worse than GOT. I really think Season 3 and 4 of Westworld are the worst downgrade in quality there is, just because of how good Season 1 and to some extent 2 was. S1 Episode 10 is still the best episode of any show ever. And to go from that to the mediocre full of plot holes dumb seasons that came after it, is really tragic, and in my opinion worse than what happened to Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead or Lost, even though I like Lost ending, which might be an unpopular opinion on its own. Nobody cared after Season 1 because it should have been a limited series. I stopped watching Westworld after the first episode of Season 3. Most people watched Game of Thrones until the bitter end. Once they left Westworld it became unwatchable. Doesn't look like anything to me. What are you talking about? All one season of Westworld was great. Heroes has entered the room. I lost interest during Season 2 and quickly decided that I would forget that anything after the first series happened. With GOT though I was forced to reconsider the entire thing, and decide I never want to watch a single episode again. Lost Season 2 onwards was fucking awful though, as was Prison Break. Naming some disappointing box sets. It was one of those shows with an absolutely amazing premise that had zero clue on how to build a satisfactory story around it. Once all the big reveals of Season 1 were out of the way, it was just left trying to constantly recapture the intrigue, and failed badly. It was almost inevitable, and you could kind of tell early in Season 2 they had no idea WTF they were trying to do. Game of Thrones, however, I think is a way bigger flop because it was set up so perfectly for them to win. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I feel like people forget The Walking Dead exists. Nothing compares to how much they butchered their fanbase. They should have stayed in the park and expanded upon Maeve's powers. That was a detail I loved that was pretty much just squashed for no reason. Nah, GOT had tons of interesting ways to wrap up the story. Look at all the great fan theories, but with WW once they introduced the idea that Maeve is unkillable and controls all the robots, there was nowhere to go. She was way too OP. I think Season 2 should have been about them taking control of the park and making sense of the real world out of the park. By taking information of their then hostages and then fighting against reinforcement coming from the outside, while discovering new characters from other parks, as happened to the Raj Park and the Samurai World. Season 1 of Westworld was incredible. One of the best things I have ever seen. I would go as far as to say that it was the best single season of any show ever. I watched 3 episodes of Season 2 and said, well, this is dumb, and then stopped watching. It really seemed like they didn't have any ideas past the first season. I mean, WW was definitely a fall from grace. But it was never as amazing as GOT. The amount of backstory and content was mesmerizing. They fell apart as soon as they ran out of source material. WW just never seemed to be full fleshed out harpoon. It was a one-season story. 2 was pretty much a repeat with some intrigue. 3 and 4, I have no clue what I'm watching or why I care. GOT got higher and fell way harder. I enjoyed all 4 seasons of Westworld. I'd still be enjoying them if fucking Max hadn't removed them from their catalog. Altered Carbon on Netflix, very similar in nature. First season I thought was fantastic, but severe dip for the second season. Westworld, Game of Thrones, Altered Carbon all have a similar instant drop in quality IMO. Never should have left the park. If they instead wrapped up with the one lady missing her child finding the place where all the AI profiles were, that would have been fine. Season 3 was such utter wank, but 4 wasn't too bad. 3 being so bad is what killed it though. In the future I will rewatch 1, 2, and 4. Life's too short to rewatch Season 3. I like it. Even the new seasons. Suck it. In before this is locked by mods like the last dozen threads. I disagree, just because we've seen cases like this when the show goes from amazing to just mediocre and runs out of steam, so while a downfall, I wouldn't call it the worst fall from grace I've experienced. I'd like to introduce you to a show called Weeds. they should have stopped with the finale of Season 1. Season 1 was beautifully done, and very original. But like most shows, they feel the need to drive it into the ground at the sake of money over positive reputation. The first half of Season 3 was a decent pivot. About halfway through with it becomes clear they have no clue what they're doing is when it starts to suck. There's an episode my ex and I started and stopped 3 or 4 different times before giving up completely. What a waste of Vincent Cassel. Lost, holistically, is the greatest television show of all time, up to and including the finale. It's only those that were not actual fans that think the last episode was a problem. I watched Season 1 and then I thought WTF. I thought maybe it was just me, but I didn't watch another episode. I still don't get why they didn't take the route of Westworld being a testing ground for super soldiers that will follow any order, can be trained exactly to your liking and can be repaired rather than replaced. Sounds like a wet dream for any army. I think you might be right. Should have stopped after S1. It is fine to make a miniserie or a short-lived TV show. Season 1 was great, 2 was bad, 3 was terrible, but 4 was actually bringing it back around. I actually think another season could have wrapped the whole thing up well. Nah, I'd say The Walking Dead by far holds that title. It was the most watched TV show in history at its peak, before fading away in the background and no one cared about it anymore. Dexter was way up there down there. 2. 1 was incredible, the rest sucked. They should have ended with Season 1. Because after that, it was unwatchable. Seasons 3 and 4 seemed like an entirely different show that just used some of the same actors and character names. Season 1 was a magical experience. The way they set up the world, teased mysteries, had some great twists, and the acting, directing, production were all great. The main issue to me was that eventually those mysteries have to go away and it feels like an inherently different show. You need new mysteries to bring you along, and those are almost never as compelling as the original batch of mysteries. Walking Dead after Season 3 went from all-time to horrid. It's embarrassing what's happened. Season 1 was god tier. Season 2 was okay, but Season 3 was unwatchable. I quit pretty early on. Season 1 is the only season of the show that should have ever existed. The story, the effects, the soundtrack. Just wonderful. I just don't get Westworld LMAO. I watched Season 1 and then searched to see if it gets better, and everyone was saying it's not even worth watching past Season 1, which really surprised me. Season 1 was fucking amazing. S1 was the best television I've ever seen. Couldn't get through S2. Nothing is worse than GOT. I'm still angry and can't watch any of the earlier seasons. I would binge the entire show before every new season and watch every episode twice. I haven't watched it since the finale. I do like Hot D though. They should have been one and done. They had a story that had some surprises and it should have ended after Season 1. Season 2 had some interesting stuff, but they burned the opportunity to explore the other world. Seasons 3 and 4 were pointless and forgettable. How is this an unpopular opinion? Season 2 was crap. Season 1 was great. Some of Season 2 was just too much. I can only take so many Anthony Hopkins monologues. I might be in the minority, but I really liked all the seasons. If anything, they felt rushed. Lost has entered the conversation. Season 1 was awesome. Season 2 took a turn and surprised everyone, but cool. Season 3, WTF just happened to this series? Didn't watch any others except for a bit here or there. It was a different show altogether. People complained Season 2 is where it went downhill, but here is why I never watched it beyond Season 2-1. Every character arc completed too. Dolores was now in a new body. The actress was a black woman instead of a white woman. Why did they not have Season 3 with black woman Dolores? Felt like the actress got gypped and I didn't care for a half-assed explanation. The peak of Westworld is nowhere near the peak of GOT. Even the first season's ending was underwhelming.